Hi, everyone. I'm David Jones, Costa representative and benefits chairperson. I am a former student and therefore like unofficial apprentice of our next uh, teacher, Jon Blakely. Hi, John. How are you doing today?
Good. How's it going, David?
Good. Are you ready for your questions?
I am ready.
What's your favorite food truck?
I don't eat at a lot of food trucks. I really don't eat out at that often. But if there was such a thing, and maybe there is such a thing as like a sushi food truck, I'd be like 100% in. I love sushi. My kids love sushi. So it's like a family pastime. I don't know that sounds kind of like an odd, thing, but
You sound
it
healthy.
could be. I don't know. Anyway.
Main reason you chose teaching?
So that's kind of an involved thing, but essentially, I'm a product of the community college system myself. I went to Cerritos College down in Los Angeles, and I really felt called, at some point there. I didn't start off as a math major or any of that, but I love the community college environment. I love the fact that I can actually just be a teacher to teach. I don't have to, worry about any sort of publishing or research or any of that. I can just be with my students and I can just be a teacher, and I don't have to deal with like the drama from high schools and stuff. So I just, it's a fit for me. I love community colleges. I love community college students, and I'm a big believer in the community college system. So that's the reason.
Excellent. What courses are you teaching?
So I teach obviously math courses. I primarily teach like college algebra for STEM. I do teach Calc 1. I'm currently teaching Calc 1. I have taught Calc 2 in the past, although it's been a while. And then I just more recently started to take teaching stats, which is we have a lot of those. So it kind of makes sense that eventually I would start teaching some of those. But yeah, that's essentially what I teach.
What's your proudest non-teaching accomplishment?
So that's hard to narrow down. I've had a long life, but I'd probably say I've summited Mount Whitney actually twice. I've done it from like what they say, both sides. I did one several years ago from the Whitney portal. That was a day hike up and back. And then this past summer, I went on a 8-day backpacking trip through the Sierra Nevadas, and we finished at summiting Mount Whitney. So that's coming up from the Guitar Lake side. That we left early in the morning and actually got to the summit before sunrise. So we were able to watch the sunrise from the summit of Mount Whitney this last summer. It was actually a really just a fantastic experience. And that's not an easy hike. Yeah. But it was great. So that would probably be my sort of my proudest moment, to summit Whitney twice. Enough to do it once, but do it twice was really cool.
That sounds phenomenal. What's something most people don't know about your past?
Well, I could go a lot of different directions here, but I think probably I was talking to my wife about this, and she said, "Oh, you have to tell them this." When I was in graduate school, I actually had really long hair. Like we're talking like middle of the back, long hair. There's a few pictures out there somewhere. But yeah, I cut my hair after I passed my comps, and I'm like, oh, it's time to get a job. So I should probably like clean up a little bit, but I had the long hair and the earring and the whole 9 yards. So yeah.
It sounds like I need to talk to her for your photo for this.
Yeah.
What's your watch it 1,000 times movie?
So I'm a big sucker for sci-fi movies. I enjoy science fiction movies. There's some science fiction is better than others, obviously, but so if I had to narrow that down, when I was a kid, what kind of got me into science fiction was Tron. Sounds kind of it's an older movie. So Tron and Tron Legacy, I think, are really just unique, quality movies that I could watch a lot. But pretty much any science fiction I could watch. But those would probably be my sort of a little closer to my heart from my childhood and whatever. So.
Excellent choice. What's your late work policy?
So I don't accept late work. I feel like, part of our job here at COS is to prepare these kids for the real world. And, in the real world, I don't know that, that late work is something that's, like if you're late to a huge meeting, you lose the client. So I think part of our job is to actually help these kids to understand that, like, there are deadlines in the real world. In the COVID era, I try to be slightly more flexible, but in the long run, I don't tend to accept the late work. I just think it's better to prepare them for what they're going to deal with when they get out into the business world.
All right. That sounds like it's going to lead right into our next question. What's your absence policy?
So, in a similar fashion, I don't take attendance. Okay. And I tell my students this is the first day of class, like, I just don't take attendance. I want my students to be there every day. I think it's super important for them to be there every day, but they have to take ownership of their own education. When they get to the college, it's time for them to say, I'm going to go to class because I want to go to class. I want to learn. I want to see what's going on, and I want to be prepared for the tests and all that. So I don't take attendance. They need to decide to show up. And, if they don't want to show up, then it's their responsibility also to get a hold of me and, like, be responsible, take ownership. That's the thing they got to do.
Well, it worked for me. One piece of advice to your students.
So the biggest thing I think I would say to our students would be, do your homework. Like, if you don't at least sit down and do the homework and work hard at the homework, then you don't even give yourself a fighting chance. Like, I give homework for a reason. So you got to stay on task. You got to do your work, do it in a timely manner. I think if they can do that, I can get them through pretty much any class, because, if you do the homework on time, you're going to have questions, and then we're able to address questions and get issues resolved and all that. So, like, that's my biggest piece. It sounds like the dumbest piece of advice ever. Like, it's obvious, but do your homework. You got to do the work if you want to get through the class. So.
Do you have any pets?
So we do. We are cat people. I know that there's some people that are like, I know some people don't like cats. Some people, I grew up with dogs, but we do own 2 cats. They're a couple of strays that kind of wandered into our yard one day about 10 years ago, and we started taking care of them.
So the cats have you.
What's that?
The cats have you. You don't have the cats.
So we actually do really like them. They're part of the family. The neighbors gave them names. One of them is called Friendly, and the other one's actually called Psycho. But they're great cats. They're a little older now, but we do have 2 cats.
So I think we might have hit on this topic a little bit earlier, but on Sunday, would you rather hike a mountain or kill zombies?
Yeah. There's no question. That's mountains for me. I'd rather go hiking.
What's your favorite recent teaching moment?
So I have had a lot of moments over there. As you know, you've had a class for me. There were some good moments in that class as well, but that was years and years ago. Recently, I have to say, not really a favorite teaching moment, but I have had a student that was actually revolutionized 3 of my classes. She called herself Crazy Bree, but she was a fantastic student. And she had all this great positive energy. This is like 6 o'clock in the morning class also. So she would come, she had all this crazy energy. And I really think that her energy in the class and her, she was always answering questions. She was getting together with students after class. She had like weekend study groups with these kids. I honestly think that she's the reason that big chunks of those students got through those classes. So it made for a really enjoyable environment, and she still keeps in contact. She's at Fresno State now, but she'll give me an email, or she can stop by my office and say hi or whatever. But it made for really enjoyable 3 semesters in those classes, because at 6 o'clock it can be tough. But she come in with all this, excitement and like, come on, everybody, we can do this kind of a thing. It was like kind of the class cheerleader. So was really fun to you know, to have her in my class. But so that would probably be my favorite moment.
Maybe she'll be back one day to teach like alongside you, like I did.
Yeah, maybe. You never know.
If you could take a long weekend, where would it be?
So this is kind of an obvious one too. You know, for me, it'd be backpacking in the mountains. To me, I love, you know, strapping on 40 pounds and just turning the phone off and just getting out with some friends and, you know, exploring a little bit, maybe hanging out near a lake or something. You know, backpacking is something I recently started doing the last several years, and I just have found I absolutely love doing it. So, yeah, I would head up to the mountains and do a little hiking and backpacking.
Awesome. Do it now or wait until the last minute?
Oh, I have to do it now. I can't stand the thought of something like that needs to get done. Like you can ask my wife if, you know, I'll go home and be like, oh, I need to mow the lawn sometime this weekend. And then she'll be like, yeah, you're mowing that today. Like I can't have stuff hanging over my head. So I'm definitely a do it now.
Other career you'd pursue if you didn't pursue teaching?
So for the last 6 years, I've been coaching at my kids' high school. Both my kids graduated from high school now, so I'm not coaching anymore. But I was did coaching of cross country and track, and I found that I really, really enjoyed it. You know, it was a very rewarding experience to get to know these kids and see them pursue personal goals and have a chance to speak into their lives apart from like the teacher. You know, it's sort of a little different thing. So I would, if I had a second career, I would probably go into coaching more. You know, it was just something I absolutely had a great time doing.
It's pretty close to the teaching.
Yeah, it is kind of close.
It's just your thing. What's your favorite anxiety reliever?
Well, it depends on the situation, actually. Sometimes it's, you know, go out for a run, kind of blow off a little steam or whatever. Sometimes it's taking a nap. I mean, spending time with my wife and kids, or, you know, sometimes the best thing for me is just sit down with a good book and a cup of coffee or tea and just, you know, have some quiet. So it really does depend on what's causing the anxiety for me. I have a lot of different things I'll go to just sort of relieve the anxieties or whatever, but that's kind of like the short list, I suppose.
What's one inanimate object you'd take to a deserted island?
Well, assuming I'd want to survive on the island, I would probably take some sort of a multi-tool like a Leatherman or something, because I this is the point to survive. I mean, it's great to have like reading materials or whatever, but like I think I'd want to survive, you know. You know, I don't know. Call me overly practical. It's not fun, but it's practical and it would work. It'd keep me alive.
Something that generates flame and does things. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
for sure.
What's the favorite thing about your job?
So I think the thing I love about my job and COS in particular is I really love and enjoy being with my colleagues and students, which is what's made like COVID so difficult, is like sitting at home in front of the computer. It's not my jam. So like I love being in the classroom with my students. I love, you know, interacting with them, you know, and it's not just like the content. It's like just getting to know who they are and spending time with them and spending time with my colleagues and talking about, you know, just stuff about life or stuff about teaching or whatever. Just, we have a great department, and it's always been like that. So there's just something special about physically being with each other and being able to look each other in the eye and talk to each other and work ourselves through things. So that's probably my favorite part of the job, just being with students and being with my colleagues.
Yeah, the department is pretty good. That new guy is really great. I'm gonna quote you later that you enjoy being around your colleagues. Office decor, minimalist or maximalist?
I'm a minimalist. I am my happiest when my desk has literally nothing on it. My desk at home has nothing on it. When there's stuff on it, it's like I feel like I have something to do. So I'm definitely a minimalist.
What's the biggest obstacle you would remove for students if you could?
our students do have a lot of obstacles, especially now. I think what I would say is help the students to remove distractions. I think our students just have too many irons in the fire. There's just too much going on in their lives. And I don't know that that's something that we can fix because a lot of those things are personal issues or whatever. But if I could find a way to help students manage their time properly and remove the distractions from their life and really focus on their schoolwork or focus on work or focus on family or whatever, and just kind of remove some of the other distractions, I think it would be a real game changer. I think they'd be able to really excel in a lot of other areas, not just in their educational goals.
What's the best thing about being a Costa member?
Well, so I mean, I've been at COS for well over 20 years now, which seems like I've actually been at COS longer than anything else I've had in my life. Yeah, anything before like COS. So I've always felt like Costa has had my back. Like, they've always fought hard to make sure this is a fantastic work environment, to make sure that we had, a place that we wanted to come to. And don't get me wrong, there have been, lots of disputes over the years that have made it challenging. But Costa, I really felt, has always fought for the rights of faculty in the right way. I always felt like their goal was to make this a great place to work. And I think that's obviously what the goal is. But, it kind of is like that old saying that like happy employees make for great business. And I think that's, what I always felt like Costa was fighting for, make sure that we felt valued. And so I just always felt like Costa always had our best interests in mind. And I think it's a great union. I think that they've done a really good job over these last 20 years, and I can't see that ever changing. So it's a good place to be part of.
Well, there you have it, folks. Now you all know Jon Blakely a little bit better. And to refer to something he said earlier, end of line.